Hello, everyone. This is Miss Judy from the Cops and Kids Children's Reading Room of Easton. We're celebrating Black History Month with the selection of our story today, which celebrates the history, the freedom, and the love of African Americans in the United States. And it's based on a spiritual song called the Drinking Gourd. Follow the Drinking Gourd. Our authors have turned it into a folktale and story that we're going to read together today. It is Follow the Drinking Gourd, and the Drinking Gourd is actually a constellation of stars in our skies, in our heavens. And another name for it is the Little Dipper. We can see on the cover of our story the formation of the stars in the shape of a little drinking dipper with a handle that has on its very end the North Star, which is what the slaves, in trying to escape, always looked for as a guide. So let's begin our story. Long ago, before the Civil War, there was an old sailor called Peg-Leg Joe who did what he could to help free the slaves. Well, Peg-Leg Joe had a plan. He used his hammer and nail and saw. And he worked for the master. The master was the man who owned the slaves on the cotton plantation. There we see the slaves picking the cotton to be able to send away to manufacture clothing and blankets to wear. Joe had a plan. And at night, when work was done, he'd teach the slaves the song that secretly told the way to freedom. Just follow the drinking gourd, it said. And so when the song was learned and sung all day, Peg-Leg Joe would slip away to work for another master and to teach the song again to many more slaves. And then one day, a slave called Molly saw her man, her husband James, sold to another master, and James would be taken away and their family would be torn apart. And so just one more night together, they needed to make a decision. They did not want that to happen. And the only way was to escape. A quail called in the trees that night, and a quail is a bird that has a beautiful evening song that it sings. Molly and James remembered Joe's song, and they sang it low. When the sun comes back and the first quail calls, follow the drinking gourd. For the old man is awaiting for to carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd. They looked to the sky and they saw the stars. What did they see? Our drinking gourd, our little dipper. And there is the North Star on the end of the handle that they were going to use as their guide. Taking their little son Isaiah, old Hattie and her grandson George, Molly and James set out for freedom that very night, following the stars of the drinking gourd. Then they ran through the fields till they crossed the stream to the woods. There they go on their journey north. When daylight came, they hid in the trees, watching, listening for the master's hounds that they set loose to find them. And they're the growling hounds who have followed and chased the slaves. But the dogs lost the runaway's scent at the stream, and Molly and James and Isaiah, old Hattie, and young George were not found. Phew, they were lucky this time, and they hid all day in the woods. At night, they walked again, singing Joe's song and looking for the signs that marked the trail. The river bank makes a very good road. The dead trees will show you the way. Left foot, right foot, peg foot, traveling on, following the drinking gourd. And there we see them doing just that, following the North Star on the Little Dipper. By night, walking and sleeping by day, for weeks they traveled on, and sometimes there were berries to pick and corn to snatch, and sometimes even fish to catch. And here we see them sleeping hidden in the corn stalks in the field to try to stay hidden. Sometimes they had empty bellies to sleep on, which means they had no food and they had to remain hungry. And sometimes there were no stars to guide the way. And see how the dark clouds in the sky blocked the stars from sight. They never knew what lay ahead, so they had to hide in different places, and it looks like here they're hiding in a cemetery. There was danger from men who would send them back, and danger from hungry beasts, but sometimes a kind deed was done. So let's see who treats them kindly as they go on their journey. One day, as they hid in a thicket, a boy from a farm found them, and in a bag feed for the hogs in the wood, he brought bacon and cornbread to share with them. Oh, that was really thoughtful and caring, wasn't it? Well, singing low, they traveled on. The river ends between two hills, following the drinking gourd. There's another river on the other side. Just follow the drinking gourd. So on they go. And you can see on our tree a sign for a reward. So there are people that are trying to find them as they go on their escape journey. On and on, they followed the trail to the river's end. From the top of the hill, they saw a new path, the path to another river beneath the stars to lead them to Freedom Land. The drinking gourd led them on, and the song was almost done. When the great big river meets the little river, follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is awaiting for to carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd. We see the Little Dipper still sitting out there guiding them. And then they climbed the last hill. Down below was Peg-Leg Joe, waiting at the wide Ohio River to carry them across. And see what he built with his hammer and nails and saw? He built a boat to take them across to the other side. Their spirits rose when they saw old Joe. Molly and James and Hattie and Isaiah and George ran to the shore. There they go. Under a starry sky, Joe rowed them across the wide Ohio River, and he told them of hiding places where they would be safe. A path of houses stretched like a train on a secret track leading north to Canada. He called it the Underground Railroad. It carried riders to freedom. The first safe house stood on the hill. The lamp was lit, which meant it was safe to come. Ragged and weary, they waited while Joe signaled low with a hoot like an owl. Hoo, hoo, hoo. I wonder what that signal did. Well, the door to the house opened wide to welcome the freedom travelers. And there they're being greeted. They rushed through the house to the barn, for the farmers knew there were slave catchers that were very near behind them. What do you think the slave catchers were going to do if they caught them? Yes, they would take them back to the plantation to continue to be slaves. A trap in the floor took them under the barn to hide till it was safe to move on. Then Peg-Leg Joe went back to the river to meet others who followed the drinking gourd. With danger still near, really too close for ease, the farmer sent the 5 travelers on. He drew a map that showed the way north on the midnight road next to the safe house, just over 2 hills. There's our safe house up on the hill. This time, James called a signal, a hoot like an owl. Hoo, hoo, hoo. That opened the door to a Quaker farm, and the travelers were led to a secret room hidden behind shelves. Wow, that's clever, isn't it? A really neat hiding place. They rested here for many days. They healed their wounds. They were able to sleep in soft beds, full meals. They got new clothes and had hot baths that washed away some of their fear and their pain. And Isaiah in particular just smiled. He was so much more comfortable. When they were strong, they traveled again from house to house on the underground trail, still following the drinking gourd north. And see, they followed to houses that had lights, meaning it was a safe place. Sometimes they traveled on foot and sometimes by cart. The wagon they rode near their journey's end carried fruit to market and the runaways to freedom. At last they came to the shores of Lake Erie. Molly and James and Isaiah, old Hattie and young George, they climbed aboard the steamship that would carry them across to Canada, to freedom. 5 more souls are safe, cried old Hattie, and the sun shone bright as they stepped on the land. And they could say they had followed the drinking gourd. So they were happily safe in a new place to continue living together. That's the end of our story today. That's the story of Follow the Drinking Gourd. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm hoping that you will join us again for the next story that we've chosen to share during Black History Month. Continue to have a good time reading, and we'll look forward to greeting you again soon.